Gore shit more like bloody poop. Go my boy and eat your soup. You will never see a boob. Ohio Dingleton Nation, Watashi wa Dingleton desu. If you didn't get that, if you're a BAKA gaijin that hasn't seen Naruto, then I suggest clicking off this video, as today's album is for the weebs, the otakus, and the cultured. An album you can't let your gang know you fuck with. Of course I'm talking about My Love Feels All Wrong by Gore shit. Last spring, I really got into breakcore and digital hardcore with a certain group you'll be seeing much more of in March. It didn't take long for me to binge through all their stuff before I had to go looking for other similar artists. I went right past Sewer Slut, who is currently one of the biggest breakcore artists, because she felt a bit too emo for me. And I heard a couple songs by Lolly in early 20s. But nothing really caught me like how Gore shit did, with this being the first album of his that I heard. The album that's on streaming services isn't My Love Feels All Wrong, but instead the 2015 Digipack release of it. You might be wondering what's the difference? And although the Digipack release improves the mixing of the album, it also more than doubles the tracklist. One might think that adding more tracks to an already awesome Chuck Norris album is great, but I personally believe that the Digipack exclusives are a pretty weak crop of tracks, noticeably different from the 2009 original with their bigger focus on noise production. And also it's just easier for me to talk about 8 tracks rather than 17. The opening track, Tattoo the Lollies, is the longest track on the record, clocking in at 6.5 minutes, which it uses to great effect. The first minute of the track slowly builds tension as a breakcore drum loop and jungly sound effects are added. Before the excitement rises too high, Gore shit shows control by removing the main melody and drums, only leaving the drum loop and supporting synth, which have had the reverb cranked up all the way. As the volume slowly creeps up again, the tension rises further, as Gore shit finally reveals his hand by introducing an unexpected vocal sample of 2 anime girls talking. When the beat finally does drop, everything comes back in full force, with the distinct melody being drowned out by thumping drums and the vocal sample, which at this point has been chopped into an absolutely unrecognizable state. This repeats a couple times, as everything calms down before the sample cries out for the entrancing refrain to start all over again. I think that this track is a great warning for what's about to come. Speedy melodies, pounding drums, and anime girls sampled beyond recognition, all explained in a catchy anthem. All this and more appear in the next track, Piripu, Fuck, which opens up with an absolute cacophony of blaring alarms, 2 different sped up drums, and an anime girl scatting. As the track goes on, a subtle melody that just screams Undertale gets added, before being overshadowed by an ear-deafening 808. The scatting turns into yapping, and as the beat drops, to straight up high-pitched screeching, which is absurd and unique, but it does give me a headache. The next track, Nyan, moves away from the outrageous screeching of the previous track, as this entire track is built on a more subtle 8-second long vocal loop of an anime girl singing. But don't let that fool you into thinking that this is a chill song, as this song forgoes normal song structure like a melody, to instead deliver 4 minutes of the same 8-second loop with progressively more and louder drums. Even on the improved Digipack release, the mix on this song is so muddied that you can barely hear the vocals during the more intense parts, which I think really elevate the track, really hammering in how hardcore and unlistenable a tacky weeb vocal sample is when accompanied by 5 different drum breaks. Ever since listening, this track frequently gets stuck in my head, and as dumb and repetitive as it might be, I think it stands out on this dumb and repetitive album. The next track, Annual Hair Wash, returns to the choppiness of previous tracks, but executes it way more brashly. We get a really chopped vocal sample on most of the track, along with an annoying melody and some classical drum breaks. We've already seen all that before, but it doesn't take long for the track to start incorporating more noisy elements of production, occasionally breaking up the action with deafening TV static, which I feel is a bit heavy-handed. On the latter half of the track, we get a different, more chill sample, which is allowed to play out naturally, and it incorporates a tuba, which I enjoy way more than the harsh chopped static. The B-side opens up with 2 sequel tracks, Hashidashi 2, Return of the Funubashi, and Rushi 2, Return of the Diclonius. Don't ask me what that means, I have no idea who these people are. Hashidashi is a harsh, noisier hardcore cut with heavily chopped samples. Rushi 2 opens up with an English sample of a girl going, "I finally get to meet you, the person behind glass, which probably refers to us, the listeners, behind the glass of our screens. After that, the track descends into a hard bass cut with really distorted wailing screams. I don't really feel strong about these sequel tracks. I think that they're a bit one note and don't really provide much when you look past the noise. According to a review I read, the next track is the only song that's not horrifying pedo bait, and I can see why. It's a fantastic piano piece that's tastefully enhanced with a mix of sped up and slowed down drum breaks, along with some subtle 808s accenting the melody. This is the most classic breakchord track on this album, being the only one without any vocal samples, and it's a great way to end such a loud and chaotic album on a more classy note. Well, is the final original track of the 2009 tracklist. We also get a bonus remix of Nyan at the end. What makes Nyan my favorite track on this album is how fast, loud and chaotic the drums get on it. Something that I don't really experience on this slower remix with its less pronounced drums. While it can't really compete with the original, I can't really be mad at a bonus track, thus marking the end of the album. Before sitting down to write this review, I found this album really long and samey, but that's the Digipack release. The 2009 original has a way tighter track list, and we get some chaotic heat on tracks like Tattooed Lollies, Pirupi Fuck, Nyan, and I do think that on the middle of the album, we get a pretty weak 3-track run with Annual Hair Wash and the 2 sequel tracks, which in my opinion focus a bit too much on being noisy rather than good, but I digress. I think that for the good highs and short runtime, it's more appealing than Whole Lotta Red, but doesn't really live up to the level of quality on Cassiopeia's self-titled. Did you agree with my review? Or was this the worst review ever? Tell me in the comments. Either way, Dingleton out.